Hey folks, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to talk about how young could a kid be to fly a model airplane. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I've had 4 or 5 people email me or private message me or post on my YouTube. How young can a kid be to actually learn to fly and master a model airplane? So before I dive into that, if you're new to my channel or a first-time visitor, welcome. If you don't know who I am, I'm Dag, D-A-G, that's my nickname. I've been doing model aviation since the late 70s, flying radio control from about 1979 or 80. I learned to fly with gliders with high starts. And my obsession the last 15 years has been giant scale electric airplanes. And I love to design my own airframes, I love to build them, and I love to fly them. So the intent of this YouTube channel is to share my experiences with you. I don't like to talk about what ifs or you might try this. I want you to have success. So I'll share my failures and my success with you, but I'm not going to be one of those person that goes, oh, I'm not going to be one of these people that will say, go out and try this and see if that works for you. That's not me. I try to share with you things I know will work, or I'll tell you that that might not work. Before I get too deep into this, I want to do a shout out to my sponsor, RTL Fasteners. If you need any bolts, nuts, blind nuts, lock nuts, nylocks, servo screws, any of the stuff that we use in model aviation, they're probably going to have it. So go to their website. If you buy more than $50 worth of product and you use code DA30, you'll get 30% off your order. So when we talk about how young can we actually get a kid to fly a model airplane, I don't actually have that answer. Okay, 9 years, I've taught 101 people how to fly airplanes. And 9 years old was the youngest, but that was back in the 90s. We didn't have any tools. We had no simulators. We had buddy boxes, but nobody's buddy boxes would ever work with my Futaba or my Airtronics. It was just working hands on hands and explaining to them aerodynamics and stalling, and that the base from final turn is the most dangerous turn in aviation. You know, it took a lot of time to get them to understand the principles of flight, because normally when you're like 8 years old, 9 years old, your dexterity is already there. You know how to use your thumbs, you know how all that works. But today we have some really neat tools. Okay, so if a kid could put into their hand the radio on a simulator, it would fit in their hand. I think a 6-year-old could easily learn to fly a model airplane. I really do, as long as their hands are big enough to fit the radio. But there are some other tools I'm going to talk about in a minute. But when you think about the simulators, if you followed my YouTube for a long time, you know that I always at the end of the videos talk about getting youth into aviation, model aviation, because there's so many kids that get really good by the time they're 8 or 9 at murdering people in video games and slaughtering them, that, you know, maybe 1 out of 10,000 will become a mass murderer. Well, if they were all on flight simulators, I think we could prevent mass murderers. But the thing is that I saw a 7-year-old one time on an iPhone playing a game, and the first thing that went through my mind was, oh my gosh, look at the dexterity of those fingers moving. Why not put a radio in this kid's hands? But I want to show you something that I actually have used that's a really cool tool. Now, I've only used this with an 8-year-old, and I didn't get them completely flying model airplanes. It's just I happen to have a really neat thing, and it is this little booger. Now, this isn't made anymore. It's a 2-channel airplane. And what I want to talk about before I get too far into this, because I've got mine right here, by the way, is if you learn to fly full-scale airplanes, the power is for altitude, and the elevator is for airspeed. Now, a lot of people want to argue with me that aren't full-scale pilots go, well, that doesn't make any sense. If I pull up on the elevator, the plane's going to climb. Most of our model airplanes are overpowered. Yes, if you pull up on the elevator, you're going to climb. And because you don't have an airspeed indicator in front of you, you don't realize your airspeed did drop a little bit. But full-scale airplanes are not overpowered. If you just keep pulling back on that stick, sooner or later you're going to stall. So to go up, we add power. So the cool thing about this is with the little radio, and it's a little bitty radio, and I wish I would have got the radio out of the box. But the radio, I think, would fit in a 6-year-old's hand. So the throttle stick is just on or off, and the right stick, which is normally our aileron, is the rudder on this. So what you do is the dad or whoever, mom, hand launches it for the kid. Kid adds power, and it will just start to climb. get up 10 or 15 feet, let them pull off the power, and then it will just glide down and land in the grass. Okay? Now, you need to have a no-wind night. So if you live in Texas, you'll probably never be able to get to do this. If you've got a gymnasium that somebody will let you into, or a maybe a church cathedral or something, if this is great indoors. Now, in your living room or family room, you got to be a good pilot, because this drives my wife nuts when I fly it in the house. But if you're a little kid learning, you don't want to learn in the family room. But the neat thing about this airplane is it's almost indestructible. Now, you can get them stuck in trees real easy, so don't fly them around trees. A friend of mine who used to work for Hobbyco gave me this, and I worked with my daughter a little bit. And I think it was Hobbyco back then. But they do make these nowadays, but they're 3 channels. So they have the elevator control. I don't know if they make the 2 channels anymore. The problem with the 3rd channel, the elevator, is we all learn at different speeds. And to me, if you got a 6-year-old, thinking about the elevator may overload their brain. We got to have fun at this. The kids have to have fun. If you're making them do it, they're going to hate it. A few dads would bring their kids to me. Out of those 101 people I taught to fly in my life, I would probably say 35 were below the age of 19. Dads would bring their kids to me and say, hey, can you teach my son to fly? I'm not getting anywhere with them. First of all of us aren't great teachers. And sometimes as a dad who fly model aviation, we already know it. So we were like, well, why doesn't my kid know it? You know, I'm freaking, Top Gun Tom Cruise here, and my son, needs to learn how to fly this. Well, we all learned somewhere. We all started somewhere. But this thing is so freaking cool. So you just turn the power on, and you can get this up 50 feet in the air if you wanted to get that high. It's going to be a little dot. But get it up 15, 20 feet in the air, pull the throttle off, let it start to glide down, and just move the rudder right and left, which is actually the aileron stick. And believe it or not, this, I think he was 8 that I had flying this. He was actually learning to do figure eights before he had to go home. But this is a really neat tool to teach kids to fly. So the way this was set up, everybody, is that it had a little hatch right here that opens up on the radio. And when you open that hatch, you would plug your little LiPo battery into it. In 20 minutes, it would charge up your battery. So you didn't need a charger or anything. Now, you did need to put your rechargeable AA's in it. But you could take this out and fly, 5 or 6 flights on it with the batteries that are on the radio and have a really good time. I don't think they make it, and I might be wrong. You can go on Google and find it. I don't know if they make a 2-channel anymore. But if you can find a 2-channel, this is one of the greatest tools, I think, if you're going to try to teach a 6-year-old how to fly, that this would be it. Now, some of you out there might say, well, Dag, I already know 6-year-olds are flying. Great. Post it in the comments below. I'd love to know. So far, the youngest I've seen is like 7. Now, if you Google who's the youngest to fly, there's some kid over the pond that at 10 years old was called the youngest kid to ever fly. And I'm like, no, I taught a 9-year-old how to fly 30 years ago. But, and there may be a 6-year-old out there flying. I'd love to know. But the questions that came from me, the emails, is how young can we go? And one gentleman has a 5 or a 6-year-old that he's trying to fly. And actually one's got, I think, a 3 or 4-year-old. So the thing is just get a radio in their hand that fits their hand and let them start to learn. But if you want them to learn aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, to me, that's going to be total mass overload. So there is another option. And I've played around with this. As you know, I try to not share anything I haven't done. And this, I am not, by the way, I'm not sponsoring any of these airplanes or drones I'm posting here. These are things I went out and stole off Google, okay? But I've got a little bitty drone that also I think came from Hobbyco. And my daughter, when she was younger, I put the radio in her hand, and I was amazed. My daughter, who does not want to be any part, she loves to go to fly-ins and watch me fly. She loves to talk to all the people. But she wants to cure diseases one day and do nothing with aviation. And that's cool with me. Everybody, whatever floats their boat. But drones are cool because most drones will stay right where you leave them. So there was this kid who I think was about 7 or 8. And I had my drone at a little fly-in. And it was after the fly-in. Well, in the evenings, everybody's cooking their barbecue or they're going out drinking or whatever. But I normally just hang out in my little tent with my airplane, and I'm either waxing it or I'm charging batteries or doing the maintenance on batteries. But this kid walked into my tent and was talking to me, and he's probably 7 or 8, and his dad walked down and said, "I'm sorry if he's bothering you." And he goes, "He's not bothering me at all." And so we started all chatting, and the kid says, "How old do you think I'd have to be to learn to fly a big airplane like this?" And this was my 188-inch wingspan MSL2. And I said, "You know, if you were 9 years old and knew how to fly a trainer, you could probably fly this airplane because this plane flies like a trainer." And the dad goes, "Oh, is 9 where you want to start him?" And I said, "Well, no, that's where I started." And I said, "I don't know how young a kid could be." And I said, "But you know, I've got a drone. You want to fly my drone?" And keep in mind, this drone is a piece of junk compared to all you FPV and drone people. Okay, this drone is just junk, but I love it. I love this drone. So basically what I did was I got my drone out, set it on the ground, and it's a drone that came with its own radio, okay? I mean, honestly, it's a piece of junk, okay? I got it in the air about 4 feet, I don't know, 20 feet in front of us, and I put the radio in the kid's hand. I said, "Okay, on the left stick, on your left hand," and I was kind of standing close to him, "so I want you to move that up a little bit." He moved it up, and the drone went up. I said, "Okay, now just let go of the stick," and the stick stopped, and the drone just kind of stopped. And I said, "That's how you go up and down." So then he pulled it down. He actually pulled it down too fast, and it really started to come down. I said, "Let go of the stick." He let go, and it kind of stopped. And I said, "See, now you're going up and down, so you're flying." And this kid was like, "Dad, I'm flying." He's freaking out. And the dad goes, "Yeah, I just learned to fly 2 years ago, and it took me a lot of time." And the kid's like, "Yeah, but Dad, I'm flying." The kid was super stoked. So I said, "Now on the right hand, take this stick and move it forward." And he actually moved it right a little bit, and it kind of went right. And I said, no, push it forward." He pushed it forward, and it just started flying way out. And I mean, it probably went out 30 or 40 yards. And the dad goes, "How far out you got to let him go?" And I said, "I'm just letting him go out." And he said, "Okay, now let go of the stick." He let go of the stick, and it slowly stopped. I said, "Now pull the stick toward us." And he back toward you. He pulled the stick back, and here comes the drone coming back. This kid was getting so high on life that he's flying this little drone. So I said, "Okay, now on the left stick, I want you to turn it." And when he turned the left stick, it started to do a 360, and that freaked him out. And this is when the drone went almost out of control, and I grabbed the radio, and I just immediately went full up, and it went up. And he was like really scared, and I said, no, dude, don't worry about this. First of all, if you hit one of us with this drone, we probably aren't going to get hurt. You're not going to hurt the drone unless I fly it into the side of one of the trailers or the cars behind us. So I said, this is part of learning. So I brought the drone back down, got it out a little bit farther this time. We actually walked out in the grass farther than just being right in my tent. And I would say within 15 to 20 minutes, I had this kid doing a lot of going forward and backwards, going left and right. Now, he couldn't come toward us because that completely distorted his brain. But this was the first time ever he had a radio in his hand. His dad came by the tent a couple of days later and says, "That's kind of embarrassing. My son's learning to fly on a drone, and I've only been flying 2 years, and I'm flying flight test planes and my Cub and all that." I said, "No, but look, it doesn't matter if you start when you're 70 years old or you start when you're 7 years old. We all have a learning curve. And you haven't learned to be an instructor yet or somebody to teach somebody yet. You could never take your kid and just put them into one of your flight test planes and teach them to fly probably. Or you might, and it'd take a long time and quite a few crashes." But he says, "I never thought about a drone." And I'm like, well, and most people hate drones. I mean, most people are douchebags about drones. They're like, "Oh, drones are ruining the hobby." No, people are ruining the hobby. Drones have nothing to do. Drones are not flying themselves, people. Humans are flying drones and doing stupid things with them. I love drones. I love FPV. I love everything in model aviation. I hope one day they come out with giant Hindenburgs so everybody can hate those and quit hating drones and helicopters and everything else. Sorry to digress. But if you want to teach a young kid to fly model aviation, you've got to make it fun. And I would recommend finding a little 2-channel, something like this, or find a little bitty, it's got to be a drone. I think my drone cost me $150. And it came with its own little radio. And actually, I wish I would have had my drone here. I've got it somewhere around my shop here. But it's not a cheap drone like you get at Walmart. It was about a $150 drone, and it had whatever the stabilization and gyros and all that funky junk is. But I think that would be wonderful to teach a kid just how to use the dexterity of his thumbs on a radio. And make sure you don't alienate and think this is only a boy's hobby. Because I find just as many young girls at fly-ins that are fascinated with my airplanes as boys. Okay, just because my daughter wants to cure cancer, get her doctorate to do that kind of stuff, doesn't mean that every girl doesn't like model aviation. And the reason she might not like my model aviation is because she liked dirt bikes. I mean, my daughter was more into dirt bikes and stuff like that than she was model aircraft. Everybody had, my son's a drummer and a lead guitar guy. He got a little bit into my drones, but it never floated his boat. So it's not for everybody. But if your kid is into model aviation, wants to learn it at 4, 5, and 6, I think you might be able to get them into the air at that age. I really do. And if you're ever to fly in and you see me and you've got a 5 or 6-year-old and they're interested, come up and say, hey, Dad, can we get my kid in the air? And I'll get out my drone and we'll figure out what to do. It's just that simple. So thanks for watching my videos, everybody. Please like and subscribe. I always end my videos at the end by talking about getting kids into model aviation. But this one I'm going to do a 2-part ending. I'm changing some of the format of my videos. I've had so many people say, please make long videos. One guy said, you remind me of Richard Feynman. I could listen to you talk for 3 hours. I'm not going to make 3-hour videos. Well, I've got other people saying, I'm tired of listening to you talk, okay? Just make short little videos. So I've been making what I call 2-minute updates, and they're just for fun. They're little bitty 2-minute updates. I would say 90% of the people are giving those thumbs up. Actually, about 98% of the people are giving those thumbs up. Some people are saying, thank you very much for doing short videos. Well, I've got some haters already saying, you know, you got to do your long videos. I'm not just changing everything, folks. I'm always going to do educational videos like this, and they're normally 10 to 30 minutes long, but I'm going to do my little 2-minute updates on some of the builds I'm doing. So just because I do 3 2-minute update videos doesn't mean I'm going to change the format of all my videos. So go pour you a Captain and Coke and get some Cheetos and chill out. But now I'll talk about kids in model aviation. I have a massive passion for getting kids away from video games where they're murdering people. I have a massive passion to get kids away from the mom and dad just sticking them, you know, in the basement, tearing the place down, than getting them into model aviation. When I was a kid, we were outside playing from 8 o'clock in the morning until the street lights came on at 9 o'clock. And we were learning to build forts, we were building go-karts, we were working on car engines. We were doing everything when I was a kid, rebuilding lawnmowers. But nowadays, people want to stick the kid in the basement on a video game, and then they wonder why all of a sudden all the cats in the neighborhood start disappearing. It's because video games are destroying minds. There's a difference between a video game and a simulator, though. So rock on, everybody. Please like and follow my videos. I'm really trying to build my YouTube. I know this isn't for everybody, but if you watched it this long, you're either a hater that really wants to complain about my content or you're loving my content. I can't make everybody happy. Your mileage may vary, and it probably will vary. So I'll see you next time, everybody. Get a kid involved in model aviation. It teaches them physics. It teaches them science. It teaches them how to get along with dickheads and Karens. Model aviation is really a good round way to get kids to be a really good part of life and have fun. See you next time, everybody. Rock on. Be safe. Bye-bye.